You know things are going poorly for Donald Trump when he is losing either his most loyal MAGA stooges or the Fox propaganda outlet. And within minutes today, he lost both when he announced the liberation that is coming to us thanks to his tariffs. And of course, the liberation he means is the liberation from a booming economy. And that is why we see his most ardent supporters coming out against him and coming out against this tariff plan, not just what they're saying, but what they're doing as well. We saw a legal bombshell dropped on Donald Trump's tariffs from Republicans in Congress. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into all of the tariff blowback, of course, we unfortunately have to start with Donald Trump's tariff talk.
And with countries like Canada, you know, we subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. In the case of Mexico, it's $300 billion a year. In the case of Canada, it's close to $200 billion a year. And I say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I mean, at what point do we say you got to work for yourselves and you got to, this is why we have the big deficits. This is why we have that amount of debt that's been placed on our heads over the last number of years. And
Donald Trump has never once in the entirety of his long political career articulated any policy thought of substance and merit. The way he talks about tariffs is the way that a child would talk about tariffs, not even if you just quickly explain them, if you didn't explain them and just told them that they loved the word. That is how Donald Trump speaks about tariffs. It is something that he loves because he has never been checked on it, never been asked to explain, never been asked to give any reasoning. He can just pretend to be tough, his favorite thing to do, because he is so weak and insecure. But Donald Trump is now facing the music of his fake tough talk, with Republicans in the Senate responding to him. A few notable ones, but Rand Paul really sticking out above the rest because he went on Fox with Senator Tim Kaine to shred Donald Trump's tariff plan. And then I want to get into the legal bombshell that was dropped on Trump in Congress. But first, the two senators.
We are opposed to the Canada tariffs for two reasons. One, we don't like tariffs, especially broad-based, generally applied tariffs. And two, we don't like government by executive emergency declaration. Trade is an Article I power for Congress. Congresses of both parties have delegated too much of this power over to a president. But when a president says Canada is in an emergency status and we need to impose a tax on the say-so of one person, we're using a little used Senate procedure to stand up and challenge the president's declaration and imposition of these taxes.
Senator Paul, you hear the president saying it's not fair what countries are doing to us on a host of different products, and he does single out Canada of what they've been doing on different products, up to 100, 200% on some of them. What's the rationale for getting behind this?
Well, one, we should not live under emergency rule. The Constitution said taxes are raised by Congress. Most specifically, taxes originate in the House and come to the Senate. So I'm against emergency rule. But on the tariffs in particular, on the idea of trade, trade is proportional to wealth. The last 70 years of international trade has been an exponential curve upwards, and the last 70 years of prosperity has been upwards also. We are richer because of trade with Canada, and so is Canada. Whenever you trade with somebody, when an individual buys somebody else's product, it's mutually beneficial or you wouldn't buy it. If the trade is voluntary, it's always beneficial. There is no Canada versus the U.S. The consumer wins when the price is the lowest price. Tariffs raise prices and they're a bad idea for the economy.
Rand Paul ripping Donald Trump's economic agenda on the Fox propaganda outlet. I cannot believe what I am seeing, what I am hearing, what I am saying. This is the low point that it has gotten to. We are seeing the stock market collapse. Our economy is falling apart as the prediction of a recession continues to grow. The value of the dollar is dropping right now, and it almost seems like Donald Trump wants to crash the economy. It's crazy. Remember on the campaign trail, Donald Trump's biggest economic talking point was that he didn't want to be Herbert Hoover. Remember that? That wasn't anything policy-wise. It didn't sell you on anything, but whenever he talked about the economy, he would say, I just don't want to be Herbert Hoover, just don't want to be Herbert Hoover, because of course he lost so many jobs when he crashed the economy the last time. during COVID. So that was his biggest concern. So you'd think he would do anything he could to not crash the economy again. Well, apparently not. And it's the reason why we are seeing such a robust response from Democrats, of course, but Republicans as well, in passing a piece of legislation to stop Donald Trump in his tracks right here.
The yeas are 51. The nays are 48. The joint resolution's passed.
Mr. President.
So that was a resolution just now. This is breaking news, passed in the Senate to stop Donald Trump from levying his tariffs against Canada, our biggest trading ally and our closest ally. It's crazy that this relationship has come to Mark Carney saying that we don't have one anymore, that Canada has moved on from the United States, all because of Donald Trump and his, again, stupid trade war, the dumbest really economic decision any president has made in American history. Not a surprise, Donald Trump's got a couple of those, but it just continues to be baffling to me every day that so many people act like this is normal, that there's some plan in place. I remember, the early messaging from Republicans is, oh, this is just 4D chess. Donald Trump, it's a negotiating tactic. And then he'd put the tariffs in place and they'd say the tariffs were great. And then he'd take them away because they were causing economic hardship. And he'd say, oh, it's a negotiating tactic. So is it both? Is it both an economic disaster and a bad negotiating tactic? That seems like what it is. And of course, Donald Trump kind of realizes that's the reason he's trying to distract so much from his failures, and the reason Hakeem Jeffries called just that out right here.
Dismantling the Social Security Administration in real time, which is going to impact the ability of hardworking Americans to access their earned Social Security benefits. On Thursday, Donald Trump is forced to pull back the nomination of Elise Stefanik as UN ambassador when they were planning in the House her farewell party. And Donald Trump makes clear, so that there's no ambiguity, that he's pulling back Stefanik's nomination because they're on the run legislatively and their margins are tight in the House despite the claim of some big mandate. And they're on the run politically, and they're not clear that absent Elise running for re-election, they can hold a district that Trump had just won by 21 points. Then on Friday, we get new consumer confidence numbers that are plummeting because the American people have come to the conclusion that Donald Trump and the Republicans are tanking the economy in real time. Then on Saturday, 4 MAGA-supported constitutional amendments in the state of Louisiana, of all places, go down in flames. All 4 of those constitutional amendments were Project 2025 inspired amendments backed by the Republican governor of Louisiana, the Republican speaker from Louisiana, the Republican majority leader from Louisiana, and the entire Republican apparatus. All 4 constitutional amendments in Louisiana, a state that Donald Trump had just won by 22 points, go down in flames. It was a terrible week. So what happens on Sunday? He says, intentionally, I'm serious about running for a 3rd term. Why? He can't run for a 3rd term. We're not going to ever let that happen. Why does he say it? And why do some in this country chase the story as if it means anything? To distract from the terrible week that they've had.
It is no coincidence that Donald Trump started to do 3rd term talk right around Liberation Day. And when we saw that horrifying piece out of The Atlantic that Donald Trump's administration admitted on the record to a court that they had unlawfully deported a legal permanent resident of the United States, a father. I just can't even, I still can't even believe this story, but there's no surprise that all of this is happening and Donald Trump wants to distract us. That's their game. That's what they're all about. They're just trying to move the focus from the failing economy, but it's kind of hard to do when everything's red and grocery prices are up and so is gas. Things are going to get expensive. And the worst part about this tariff plan for Donald Trump is that even if he does quickly come to his senses, I don't know if that's ever happened, but it's not like corporations that raise their prices are going to lower them. This is a permanent bit of inflation. This is a permanent inflationary period that Donald Trump has put us in that he's not going to be able to get us out of no matter what. That's how big of a screw-up this is. But Republicans are, of course, opposing Donald Trump a little bit. Democrats, a lot. And that is what we saw from Governor Josh Shapiro in this clip right here.
I've seen the devastating effect of trade deals that were bad for Pennsylvania, bad for America in the 90s and the early 2000s. But just by slapping across the board 20-25% tariffs as the president's doing in such a reckless way, that's not going to spur American manufacturing. I'll tell you what will spur American manufacturing. Investing in businesses here in America, not cutting money that's supposed to go to them and raising their costs. I'll tell you what else is going to make us more competitive in America. Investing in our schools and STEM education. I'll tell you what else is going to make us competitive in America. Being healthy and not eviscerating the Department of Human Services and making it harder for people to be healthy, making it harder for us to stop diseases, whether in humans or in birds. I'll tell you what else is going to make us more competitive. Investing today in our workforce so more people learn how to be welders and more people learn the skills that they need to do the jobs of today and tomorrow. All things we're doing in Pennsylvania and all things the federal government is walking back on. You want to know how to beat China? Invest in our workforce for tomorrow. Invest in American excellence. Instead, we've got a president who's hollowing out the skills that we need, divesting from business, and raising cost on consumers. That's a surefire way to fall backwards when it comes to the world order, and it's a surefire way to not be as competitive as we've been historically.
We need more governors like Josh Shapiro. We need more Democrats stepping up to say what they are doing to combat Donald Trump's assault on our economy with powers to tariff that he never should have had. The whole argument from Donald Trump was that because he's, at war with Canada, because there's been fentanyl that's come across the border, that gives this as a national security concern, that there's gangs in Canada. I just don't, I don't really think that's happening. Yeah, are you talking about the Mounties? Now, those are the police officers. I know he's not a smart guy, but no, we need more Josh Shapiros. I'm glad the governor's stepping up, calling out this plan, talking about what he's going to do to combat it. We're going to continue to uplift what Democrats are doing to fight back on the show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.